met the great God who lives in earth. Just go ahead and tear a little bit.
Jewish war veterans host 7:30 for presentation.
Bill had a special poem he read for times like today. Remembering. I want to read it to you. Anytime we went out on these occasions, Bill always had this in his pocket, and he always read it. At the rising sun and at its going down, we remember him. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, we remember him. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now part of us, and we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember him. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember him. When we have achievements that are based on him, we remember them. For as long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us, as we remember Bill Kling. Dear friend, rest in peace.
I'd like to now call upon the Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 73, along with the NOTR, Chapter 180. I'll invite you to the podium.
Excuse me, I'm a little verklempt. I'll do the best I can. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Bill Kling, 1927 to 2012. Have you ever gave a thought to what that dash really means between our dates? You see, for me to measure a person's greatness, you have to know what they've accomplished during the time they were alive. That tiny little symbol has represented so much about the person we are. My father has touched the lives of just about everyone he has come in contact with over his lifetime. And by looking around this room, I can see that he's touched just about everybody in some form, in some way. Whether you were a friend who needed an ear to bend, or when he was campaigning for veterans' causes, or campaigning for his favorite politicians or judges, my father always was there to help. If he believed in your cause, he would go to the ends of the earth for you. He never asked for a dime. Only that you did the right thing, and the feeling he had knowing that he helped accomplish something meaningful. A father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a husband, a boyfriend, deputy sheriff, president of the Plantation Democratic Club, head of Broward County's Veterans Council, which is an umbrella of a lot of veterans causes. He helped to facilitate bringing a VA hospital to Sunrise, as well as a nursing home for Lauderdale, which he so proudly spoke to me countless times. We spoke about this. And he always told me he wanted me to come down here and do the electrical work. And I said, Pop, I'd love to. I understand you also, he's the legislative director of some Jewish war veterans, which I understand now they're naming a committee after him. Twice delegate to the Democratic Convention. He was bestowed numerous awards for his dedication for helping everyone. And I gotta tell you, I thought I would have to order a second casket just to put all his work in. His house is full of stuff. It's just When you come to the house, you can see. It's just going down memory lane. We may not agree politically on a lot of things, but one thing was for sure. They needed a voice, someone who had no agenda. So I was proud of my father. He was a man among men who met dignitaries, who valued my dad's opinion as well as his friendship. Again, my father was born in 1927. He was the youngest of two brothers and a sister who have all since passed away. His two brothers, Terry and Sidney, had never really made it past 50 years old. My dad's greatest fear, he wouldn't either. But Pop, that ship sailed. That really did. You made it to 84. After graduating high school, my dad joined the Navy during World War II as a ship's electronics repairman. The only fighting my dad ever saw was in the boxing matches they used to put on the ship. Okay? After the war, he went into business as a TV repairman and air conditioning repairman in the Bronx, Triplex. And I always remembered when he took me to work. And we used to work in some of the toughest areas in New York City. And we would walk into these people's homes, and there was a smile, a gleam in their eyes. So happy to see my father. And I'm standing there and I'm shaking. And it was amazing. At the end, he brings in his little case like he's a doctor, and he repairs their TV sets, and at the end, not only did they pay him, but they gave him a tip. These people who had no money at all, okay, gave my father a tip. So it was absolutely amazing. And then, he'd always said to me, and I said, Dad, I don't believe what's going on, we're going to these areas. He says, I don't matter if they're black, white, Chinese, or green, there's good people in every race, and you should never hate anyone because of their color. These were words to live by. My dad did side work to make extra money. There were times he did it for cost, because they were elderly and on a fixed budget. My dad divorced my mom when I was around 8. While I was living in Manhattan, he used to take me to a mid-Manhattan club where you can go swimming, socialize, and work out. For an 8-year-old, it was an adventure going to the swimming pool, working out in big tanning machines, and just plain getting into trouble. You see, I used to run through the kitchen and irritate the kitchen staff and steal food. Well, that night, one of the head of the commissary grabbed me by the arm and she says, I want to meet your father. So I dragged her up to meet my dad. And because of me, you can call me Cupid, it turned out to be Sylvia Kling. Right? And they wind up getting married. And they always said if it wasn't for me, the little brat, they never would have met. Listen, I always remember Wednesdays when my dad would visit me. We lived in the Bronx, we lived upstairs. 3 times a bell would ring me, come running down the steps. Take me for dinner, and I'd order my hamburger, my cheeseburger deluxe, and a vanilla shake. And every time my father would drink the vanilla shake. And at the end he says, I hated that, that sucked. And I look at him and I said, Pop, he says, don't worry, I'll buy you another one. And then after that, we wound up going to, I remember it was called the Viga, it was a sporting store. There he would always buy me something, a baseball glove, a baseball, a football. My dad was big into sports. I turned out to be big into music. So somehow we worked it out. I always remembered also when taking the train from the Bronx and visiting my dad in the city. It always made me feel very grown up. Okay, we would take walks in Central Park, go to concerts in the park, take his dogs, Fluffy and Gigi, okay? And his door was literally open for all friends who came just to hang out and talk to him. He always made time for you. And I always remembered hanging out in his room listening to his comedy records. Alan Sherman, and of course Jackie Mason, and of course it was a guy who imitated John F. Kennedy. And I used to sit there and I used to listen to him and try to imitate them, okay? And there was never a time my dad wouldn't do his imitation of Jackie Mason and just made everybody laugh. Or how about the time he bought a lottery ticket based on the day before his winnings? So if anybody knows about that? He had them all food for days until Sylvia tried to cash in the ticket. My dad had to tell the truth, and she was pissed at him for days. And when my dad told me in his own Jackie Mason words, he said, no, I don't think that was such a good idea. And Pop, I says it wasn't. Man, you could have been a rich man. But my father never let his feelings show. I guess he wanted to be the strength for so many. He neglected his own health. I truly believed he would have lived forever. He's my dad. He took ill about 2 months ago, right after coming up north for Father's Day. For 2 months, I watched my father suffer. The doctors thought he would never recover, but he had the will to live. And every time I walked into that room, he always had a smile on his face. He always looked at the bright side. Give me a moment. And when I visited him in the hospital, he was sharp. He was a fighter. He was an inspiration. I always thought we were getting so close to getting him home, and then the setbacks came in, and the struggle, and he just couldn't get his strength.
and his body got tired, and he never lost his will to live. But his heart went into failure, and that was the end. My wife, Rona, and my cousin-in-law were on his side when he passed. He will legally be missed by his daughter, Marcia, grandchildren, Melissa, Lauren, their husbands, Joe and Matt, Michael, Tara, and their spouses, Richie and Tara. His great-grandchildren, Emily, Sarah, Max, Jordan, Christina, as well as extended family with my wife, Rona, Jason, Jackie, and their children, Noah and Skylar, who will only be able to hear about my dad, will never have the honor of meeting him. My dad was not a businessman with a vast fortune. Sometimes he seemed sorry he wasn't more successful financially. Yet he was proud of what I've accomplished in my life. I measure wealth by how many friends you have in life and how many people show up at your funeral. Dad, you're a rich man beyond belief, let me tell you. All he wanted was for his family to be proud of him. I was proud of you, Mom. Sometimes stuff just gets in the way, but I am proud of you. We are family, your grandchildren are proud of you, and I am proud of you. And those dashes between the dates on your footstone, because I know what you've accomplished in life, and I only wish I could fill your shoes. I had the honor of meeting and talking to some of my dad's friends and colleagues. Thank you for all your support and help. Ted Deutsch and his staff, you were amazing. Thank you for bringing the honor to my father's funeral. It wouldn't have happened without you. Rona, thank you for being my strength when I couldn't be there. Okay, Paul, Sheila and Jerry, thank you for being there when I couldn't be there. And for that, I just can't say anymore. Attend, what? There's an officer in the room.